Hello, my name is Jacob Gardner, and this is my Alaskan research presentation for the wind and tidal turbine construction. To begin, I just wanted to describe the habitat and the ecosystem that these turbines will be built in. The climate there is extraordinarily variable. In the winter, it gets extraordinarily cold. Temperatures in the -30-degree range are not uncommon. And then in the summer, it can get up to 85 degrees Fahrenheit. During the summer months, migratory birds are very common along the coasts. The coasts are very rocky, and they're used a lot by these birds, many of them being migratory. And then in the water, there are a bunch of different species of marine mammal. Most migrate, however, some do hang around, like the walrus and the spotted seal. And then the oceans provide a large quantity of food for both the birds and the marine mammals. So to start off, we'll start off with the tidal turbines, and then the potential impacts they have on species. The tidal turbines can decrease the area that can be used for breeding. This is for both marine mammal and seabirds. It can reduce the movement or the ability to move and the resting areas for the marine mammals. Walruses tend to stay on sandy beaches, and they won't be able to if there's a turbine there. And then there's the potential for lower hunting success for seabirds. The tidal turbines can stir up debris at the bottom of the water and make visibility in the water decrease, not allowing for the seabirds to be able to hunt as effectively. And then, to reiterate, like walruses, they generally live on sandy beaches to rest and breed. These are going to be the easiest places to build the turbines. But the walruses are still on land, and they potentially would not be able to find new habitat areas to rest. And then the walrus is a threatened species. They get more protection for being a threatened species. And then the spotted seal requires generally sandy beaches as well in the summer months. And then they're easily scared off, and we could potentially interfere with their summer resting grounds. And then the coastal rocky shores are an important breeding ground for many seabirds. Some of them are migratory seabirds. And then the destruction of these areas and then the construction of the turbines could lead to a decrease in population of sensitive bird species. And then running the turbines can also create, again, lower visibility and decreased hunting success, which could decrease the population of the migratory seabirds or cause them to be removed from the area altogether. For example, the red-faced cormorant only lives on these rocky inner island areas where the turbines will be built, and the removal of this species will have a profound impact on the environment and the species that live in them, as they are considered an important population manager for different types of lower level species like crabs and small fish. And then for the wind turbines, they increase the potential to disrupt marine mammal communication. These turbines and machinery make low frequency noises that marine mammals use to communicate with each other. There's an increased potential for decreased hunting success. If the marine mammals can't communicate with each other or hear where their prey is, they won't be able to find it. And then there's an increased chance for bird collisions when they fly past the turbines. They won't be able to see the blades of the turbine and could potentially get hit by those turbines. Species like the beluga, orca, and humpback whale all use low frequencies to find their food. And the inability is able to use this low-frequency sound to find their food could cause a population crash or the removal of the species from the area. Many of these species are already endangered, so this could have profound problems for that species. Most of the birds listed will migrate long distances or travel by air in search of food. This would put them in the proximity of the turbines and increase the potential for collisions, potentially decreasing their population. Conservation efforts. The main goals for a lot of these conservation efforts and studies is to look at the viability of wildlife species and to protect their habitat. Most studies will pick a species of interest, look at its environment, look at its behaviors, things like that, and then use that information to look at the problem that's affecting the species and try to figure out a way to help solve that problem. These are the species current status that were in the field ID. Most of the marine mammals are threatened or endangered. And then, although these migratory birds are not endangered or threatened, the potential for them to become that way is high. And then there are several research studies that are being done on all the endangered species listed. And then how are the different turbines affecting their population? Seabirds, for seabirds, researchers look at the increased potential for turbine collision specifically. You'll see that in a couple slides. And then they also look at decreased prey species and habitat loss. With commercial fishing, a lot of these species that the seabirds and marine mammals eat are being over-harvested, and then it's harder for them to find their food. Here's a study on marine mammals and how the sound is affecting their population. There are currently a couple different organizations that and universities that are looking at it, specifically the NOAA, the EPA, as well as other private organizations like the National Wildlife Federation, are all looking at habitat availability, food security, and the sensitivity of different species to change in their environments. Here's another study that looks at the migration of, or the migratory birds and the risk of offshore wind turbines, like the ones that would be built. This is right on par with what you would want to read for this type of work. And then again, like the marine mammals, the NOAA, EPA, and National Wildlife Federation are all looking at the birds' population risks and how they look at the habitat and the food scarcity of the seabirds. And then just to reiterate, you get a research, more specific research plan written up that will be handed to you. However, a brief summary of the research plan is to identify species in the area where the construction is. This can help us change how and where we may build the turbines. And then study the species population, feeding and breeding habits, and then finally to understand how they respond to change, just looking at how sensitive they are as a species. And then to monitor the species during and after the construction to observe if conservation efforts need to be put into place. We will look at how the construction and energy production affects species and plan to help species before they require more conservation efforts and to avoid any major environmental catastrophes. We'll do this by using GPS technology, on-site observations, drones to gauge all the categories previously mentioned. And then these technologies and methods will allow us to gather large quantities of data quickly and effectively. A lot of these migratory species will not be in the area for very long, or they're not on land for very long, so it becomes very hard to study them. Being able to study them quickly will be important. And then with this plan, we hope we can properly manage species in and around the construction site and minimize the effects that they have on the environment. And then monitoring the process after species identification will be the most important part of the plan to understand how the turbines affect the environment around them. These are my references, and thank you.